If you're building AI agents and using Go High Level, this update is a game changer. Vapi just dropped a Go High Level integration that streamlines appointment booking, lead qualification, and contact creation, all using voice. Whether you're building inbound agents that sound human or outbound agents that qualify leads, this new update makes it plug and play. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how this integration works and how you can set it up fast. I'm also going to walk you through one of the most overlooked but critical aspects of AI appointment booking, which is time zone conversion. If you're scheduling Zoom calls and appointments from across different time zones, it's critically important that your agent converts it correctly. Leaving this up to the LLM can often lead to incorrect conversions and general instability when booking appointments. It might look reliable when testing, but when deployed, it can make mistakes, which can cost you a booked job. I'll show you how I build a bulletproof time zone conversion that works every time. I'm going to show you how I build all of this step by step from scratch. In this build, we're going to use Vapi for the voice agent. We'll use Go High Level for the CRM and calendar, and we'll build a custom N8N workflow to do the time zone conversion. If you're new to the channel, I'm Dan Baker. I build AI automations and voice agents that book appointments and close leads while you sleep. If you're looking to build a voice agent for your business, follow the link below, schedule a time. I'll walk you through the process and we'll get you set up in no time. Okay, let's get into the build. The first thing we're going to do is log into your Go High Level. Now, you are going to need a paid account for this to have access to the API. When you log in, you want to be sure to go to your sub account. And the first thing we're going to do is go to calendars, and we're going to create a new calendar that we're going to use for the bookings. Go here, new calendar. Personal booking is fine. We'll call this YouTube Demo V2. Test demo YouTube 2. Set the meeting to 60 minutes and then check the advanced settings. And yeah, there's nothing we need to change here. The one thing to keep in mind is that the time zone is set to the time zone of the sub account. And that's not something we're able to change unless you go into the settings. So it's important to make sure that that time zone is correct, and just to know that that's the time zone that we're sort of locked to with the calendar. Now that we've got the calendar created, let's go into Vapi, and you can go ahead and log in and go to Assistants, and we're going to go ahead and create new assistant, and we'll say this is the YouTube Demo V2 Go High Level. Create the assistant. And if you go over to Tools, this is where we're going to add the Go High Level integrations in this Tools section. Now that the assistant's created, we can go over to the Tools section and go ahead and create tool. And if you scroll down to the bottom, you can see the Go High Level tools. We've got the 4 tools: Calendar Create Event, Calendar Check Availability, Contact Create, and Contact Get. So what's really cool is Vapi has now made these integrations native to the platform. In the past, we would have had to create a custom API request or HTTP tool call. We'd have to write out the JSON and set up all the variables. Now, Vapi has made it super easy, almost plug and play, to create these tools and get the functionality up and running right away. What you're going to want to do is create each of these tools. I've already done it, so I'm going to skip this step, but I have them over here. And you'll see we've got the Contact Get, Contact Create, Create Event, and Calendar Check Availability. And we can leave those alone for the most part. What we want to do is go to the calendar settings. We're in Calendar Check Availability. Go down here, and we need the calendar ID. We'll go back here, go ahead and copy that, and then you bring it back in here and paste it in the calendar ID. Now, this is optional. You can also add the time zone of your calendar here. And sometimes this can be helpful. Sometimes it can also cause problems when you're troubleshooting. If you find yourself having issues with time zone conversions, sometimes it helps to remove this and leave it blank. For this demo, I'm actually going to remove this. And let's go ahead and hit save. And then we're going to go to calendar create event. And we'll do the same thing. We'll get the calendar ID, bring it back to Vapi, paste it here. Go ahead and click save. And then the other tools, we don't have to change anything. The default settings are fine. One thing that you want to take note of is the tool name, and we're going to refer to this, and we can go back into the assistant that we just created, and we'll go to tools. And here, we're going to select the tools that we just created. So we've got the check availability, we've got create event, create contact, and contact get. Now we've made these tools accessible to the agent. And we can go back here and let's update our prompt. One thing that's going to be really useful is Vapi has great documentation on the Go High Level integration. You can find it here. I'll leave a link to this in the description. And you'll want to give this a read. It has a lot of great information and it does a good job of explaining the process of how to set this up. You can see the different tools here and the variables that it requires to make the tool calls. You can basically see under the hood of what's going on in the native integration. And this can be really useful for troubleshooting. I'll leave a link to that in the description. And for this step, what we want is this section here, the system prompt. Vapi has created a system prompt that uses the Go High Level integrations already. We'll go ahead and copy that, go back into the agent, and we will paste it here. And I'll say, hi, how can I help you? And so you can read this over. It's just a basic scaffolding for using the different Go High Level functions. First, we collect the information, and then we check for the existing contact. Just to give you a quick overview of how this works, in order to create an event in the calendar using Go High Level, we need to first create a contact because the event in the calendar refers to a contact ID. So we get the user information, we check, we use contact get to check the CRM to see if a contact already exists. If they don't already exist, we use contact create to create a new contact in the CRM. If the contact already exists, we don't need to create a new one. Next, we discuss the appointment time. Then we check availability using the tool. If the time isn't available, the agent will offer alternatives. And then finally, we use the create event tool to book the appointment. Go ahead and publish that. And let's go ahead and give it a test. Can I book a meeting?
Certainly. I'll need a few details to get started. First, could you please provide me with your full name and email address?
My name is Dan Baker, and the email address is legshampoo@proton.me.
Great, Dan. I have created a new contact for you. Now, could you tell me your preferred date and time for appointment?
Can we do tomorrow at 9 a.m.?
It looks like 9 a.m. is not available. The earliest available slot is 9 p.m. tomorrow. Would that work for you? If not, I can check other available times.
Sure, that works.
Your appointment has been booked for tomorrow, 9 p.m. You should receive a confirmation email shortly. If there's anything else you need, feel free to let me know.
The internet connection looks a little bit choppy, so it was a little bit hard to hear, but you can see that it made a couple of these tool calls. It checked the CRM for the contact. The contact was not in the CRM, so it created it. And then we used the check availability to check for free slots and then create appointment. So if you go back into the CRM, you can see that it created the contact. Here's the email, so that works. And then if we go to the calendar, we can see that it did create an event at 8 a.m. Bangkok. And then what's cool is if you check the email, we did get a meeting confirmation email sent to the contact. If you're working only in one time zone, then This is usually good enough. You can just set it as that time zone and you're only booking local appointments. Then this is great. You don't really need to do much more. However, if you're booking Zoom calls or meetings across different time zones, if you work online and your clients are all over the world potentially, then this isn't going to be reliable as is. Now, I will say that you can use this. You can write a prompt and give it instructions for how to handle time zone conversions, but what I've found is doing it that way can be unreliable and it will make mistakes. I want to build something that is bulletproof, that doesn't rely on the LLM, that might hallucinate, and I want something that is reliable so I can sleep at night. To do that, we're going to go into N8N and build a custom workflow. Go ahead and log in, and we're going to create a new workflow. We'll call this YouTube Demo V2. And the first thing we're going to do is create a webhook. We'll go ahead and copy this test URL and go back into Vapi. And we'll go over here to Tools. And we are going to create a new tool. We'll make it a custom tool and give it a name. Call it YouTube Time Zone Converter. Converts the time zone. And here under parameters, we want to say, call this user underscore time and make that a string. Go ahead and apply. And then we'll create another one, user time zone, and give that a string and say the time zone of the user. Go ahead and hit apply. And then we want to take our webhook URL, go back into Vapi and drop that right here under the server settings. Go ahead and save that. And then we go back to our assistant, go to Tools, select our YouTube time zone converter there. Go ahead and save that. And now we're going to update our prompt a little bit. So now we'll call this step 4.0. Ask for the user's location in order to get the time zone as well as the time they would like to book. 4.1, use the YouTube time zone converter tool to convert the time to UTC. And I'll explain that in a bit. 4.2, confirm the time you will book with the user using the day number, day name, and time in their time zone. For example, Monday, September 1st at 10 a.m. Eastern. Once the user gives the agent the time and their time zone, we're going to convert the time and then come back and confirm that with the user to make sure that we've done the time zone conversion correct. And then when we read it back to them, we're going to say it in this human readable form instead of some string of date time numbers. That's good for now. I'll explain this a little bit more. Let's go back into N8N and let's go ahead and listen for the webhook. Go ahead and give this a test.
Hi, how
Can I book a call?
Of course, I'd be happy to help you book a call. Can I have your full name and email address, please?
Dan Baker, and the email is legshampoo@proton.me.
Thanks, Dan. Quickly check if you already have a contact profile with us. One moment, please. Dan, I see you are already in our system. Could you please tell me your location and the time you would like to book the appointment?
I'm in New York, and I'd like to book the appointment for Friday at 3 a.m.
It seems there was an issue with converting the time zone. Let me reprocess.
Okay, so all we needed was that. We got the information. So we hit the webhook, and we've got our data here. And you can see if you go down into the body, drill down into the tool calls, we've got the name YouTube Time Zone Converter, and then arguments user time, which is 9:05, September 5th at 3 a.m. And then user time zone, American New York. Great. So now the webhook is getting the information, and the next thing we want to do is convert this time into the calendar time zone. The next thing we're going to do is create a OpenAI node. We're going to message a model. And here you're going to want to have your credentials set up, message a model, and the model we'll use is, we want to use GPT 4.1. We want to use 4.1 mini. Now I'm just going to copy and paste the prompt that I use here, and I'll explain this. So, you are a helpful assistant. Convert the following text into an exact ISO 8601 timestamp in this format. Assume today is now, and the user is in the time zone here. Output only the ISO string with the time zone offset. And then we've got the user input, and then instructions only output the ISO string, nothing else. Let me explain this. Right now, we are getting the user time as this string. And then we have their time zone, but this is in like human readable form. The problem is that this time string does not have the time zone offset. And so in this ISO 8601 format, in order to do this properly, we need to add the offset to the string. I'll explain this when we run it. So we've got assume today is now. That gives us a point of reference so that if they say tomorrow at 6 p.m., we know what tomorrow means. Otherwise, the LLM might hallucinate. And then the user is in the time zone. And here we're going to grab down here in tool calls, our YouTube time zone converter, the arguments, user time, and time zone. We're going to grab this, drop it there. That's the time zone. Basically, what's happening is the model is taking the time and the time zone, and then it's going to combine those in the ISO string with the time zone offset, like +7 or -4 or whatever it is. I'll go ahead and test this, and you can see here content is 3 a.m. and it's -4, which is New York -4. So I really like this tool. WorldTimeBuddy.com has a really great time zone converter. It's really useful for doing these conversions, and it makes it really easy to, see different times across multiple time zones. And you can see New York at what we did 3 a.m., which is 7 a.m. UTC. Bangkok is 2 p.m. So this is a great tool. I really recommend this. And we can see that New York over here, it's -4 hours from UTC, and that's what we got here, -4. Great. So now that we've got this string, we're going to create a code node. And here, I'm just going to paste the script for now to keep the video short. I have another video where I focus specifically on how I create this time zone converter and walk through the script and all the details. But for now, just to keep things brief, I'm going to copy and paste my script, just give it a brief explanation here. We've got the user time, which we get from message content. So that is the string message content. We're going to drag this here. That's our string with the time zone offset added to the end. Next, we're going to take that time and we're going to create a new date object. From that date object, we're going to get the UTC epoch time, which is just a different time format for computers. It's like the number of milliseconds since 1970. It's basically just another time format. And then here we're going to convert this to an ISO string in UTC. And then here, this is the UTC time. Without getting into it too much, UTC time is the standard point of reference when dealing with computer time. UTC is an offset of 0. And then here, we're going to output some of the data. So we're going to output the user time. We're going to output the UTC time as an ISO string. And then we're going to output the epoch in milliseconds. Now, underneath that, this Vapi object, and this is important, we're going to output the start date. And here we're using the epoch MS. Again, remember, this looks like this. This is the Unix time. We're putting that in start date, and I'll explain this in a second. The end date is the same time plus 30 minutes. Here I'm going to, let's say, 60 minutes. So again, I'm skipping over this pretty quickly just to keep this video as short as possible. I'm going to have another video you can check out where I walk through this step by step and go into more detail about why we're doing what we're doing. But if you want to just get this working, you can just copy the script. I'll put a link in the description. And then here, we're going to get rid of this calendar ID. We don't need that. That's coming from Vapi. Let's give this a test. You can see here the user time, 3 a.m. -4. That's New York time. Great. The ISO UTC time, that's 7 a.m. here. Let's see if that's correct. Yes, 7 a.m. Perfect. And then epic milliseconds. This is the Unix time version of this UTC string. So we've got the start date and the end date. Okay, so the reason why we're calling it start date and end date is because if we go back to the Vapi Go High Level documentation and we scroll down, you can see the check availability tool. So although this is a native integration, which is great, but in order to make this work, we have to sort of get in there and mess with the data and change the data a little bit. So what we're doing is we are modifying the start date here. Now, here you can see this tool uses the following fields to check for open appointment slots. It has the calendar ID. That's coming from Vapi. The start date, start of the time range to check for availability, epic time in milliseconds. So that's why we're converting it to epic time in milliseconds, and we're calling this start date so that when we send the response back to Vapi, this is the format, start date with the epic time in milliseconds, and then that's what it's going to use when it makes the Go High Level call. So we give it the start date, and then we give it the end date, which is this plus 60 minutes. And we'll go ahead and give that a save. And then here we're going to respond to webhook. And here we're going to change this to JSON. And I'm just going to paste this, and we're going to give it the JSON to respond with. So we'll give it a JSON object, and we'll call this results. And this is the format that Vapi uses when making a response to a tool call. This is just the format so that in order for Vapi to use this data, it needs to be in this format. If you want to learn more about it, you can read up the documentation. Here, I'm just going to go through it. We've got results, which is an array, and then we've got another object, and we'll call this tool call ID. And what we need to do here is that this is the response that goes back to Vapi, and we need the tool call ID so that Vapi knows what tool call is this information coming from. We'll go back into our webhook where we received the data, and we need the tool call ID. Copy that, and we're going to paste it, and then we're going to need to wrap this in quotes so that it comes back as a string. Give that a comma, and then the next thing we need is, for the result, we're going to use the start date that we converted in, again, remember, epic time milliseconds. And go ahead and give that a test. And this looks good. It's a little bit confusing because it actually has a bunch of information that we didn't put in the JSON body. I don't really understand why they do that in N8N, but if you open this, you can see here we've got the result. It's an array with one result. We've got the tool call ID, and we've got the result, our epic time. Now, I know that we did have the end date time as well. I'm going to leave that out for simplicity for now, but it's available if we want to troubleshoot. But I want to avoid it because if we keep that in, then now that means we're hard coding the length of the meeting in the N8N. So we can just move on. Go ahead and hit save. And now we'll go back into Vapi, give it a call. Yeah, can I book an appointment?
Of course, we can help with that. May I have your full name and email address to get started?
My name is Dan Baker, and my email is legshampoo proton.me.
It looks like we already have your information in our system. Dan, can you please provide your current location and the time you would like to book the appointment?
I'm in New York, and I'd like to book
Got it.
an appointment for Friday at 4 a.m.
It looks like I wasn't able to convert the time correctly. Let me manually handle this. First, let me confirm you would like to book.
Okay, I know what happened. Now that we've got our response set up, we need to go back to our webhook and change this and see where it says respond immediately. We need to change that to using respond to webhook node. Should be good to go. Save that. Let's go ahead and listen and give it a call.
How can I help you?
Can I book a call, please?
Of course. Could you please provide your full name and email address to get started with booking your appointment?
My name is Dan Baker, and my email is legshampoo@proton.me.
Great, Dan. I found your existing contact information. Could you please provide your location and the time you'd like to book the appointment?
I'm in New York, and I'd like to book an appointment for 4 a.m. on Friday.
I see there are available slots for your requested time on Friday, September 5th at 4 a.m. Eastern Time. Should I go ahead and book this appointment for you?
Yeah.
Your appointment has been successfully booked for Friday, September 5th at 4 a.m. Eastern. If you need anything else.
Okay, looks good. We've got the webhook is looking good. Here's the data. Everything worked smoothly there, no errors. And now let's go to our calendar, and we can give this a refresh and see. All right, it booked an appointment for Friday at 3 p.m. That looks good. And we can check our time zone converter. Did we do it right? 4 a.m. on Friday Eastern is 3 p.m. Bangkok. Yeah, great. One thing I want to explain that might be confusing is that you may have noticed that we are using UTC. So we're here, we're converting the New York time zone to UTC, which is a 0 offset. And then that's the time that we're using to book the call. But the calendar is in Asia, Bangkok. So the way this works is that Go High Level accepts a UTC time and then converts that to the time of the calendar. So you don't want to convert it to your local time zone. And again, sometimes it works, but it's not always the most reliable way. So here we're normalizing it to UTC 0 offset, send that to Go High Level, and then Go High Level does the conversion to the calendar. So there it is. You now have an AI voice agent that creates contacts, books calls across time zones reliably, and integrates with Go High Level. And we even get the confirmation email sent to the user. If you're thinking about building a voice agent for your business, book a call below. I'll walk you through step by step how to set it up. We'll get you running in no time.